This is Møller Nielsen from Java Code Geeks, and I'm going to teach you how to write clean, efficient code using Python. If you're new to Python or if you just want to start picking up a programming language, then this video is something for you. I will also compare the Python language with the Java language. Now, complementary to this video, there will be related articles and links in the description below. Please take the time to like, subscribe and hit that notification bell so you know when we have more stuff coming up. Now, without any further ado, let's get started. So the first question you probably have is, why use Python at all? And the most simple answer to that question is because it is one of the easiest languages to get to know. It's much easier than Java, for instance, which I will show you here in just a minute. It works through all platforms, and it's a dynamically typed program, which means that you can actually change types on the way. So the important part of your code is actually what it does, not which types that you have, and also not the type conversion. That's not the important part of your programming. Of course, you need to do type conversion if you want to convert it into something else. Of course, you need to do that, but it's not the main part. When you're programming Java, then you need to give up the type all the time because it's a statically typed programming language. But I'll show you all this a bit later. First of all, how do you get started with Python? It is very easy to get started with Python, especially to begin with. Don't think about dependency management handlers and tools like Anaconda to begin with. I'll show you how to get started with Anaconda anyway. If you want to, I'll just show you the website and how to download Anaconda. But in the beginning, you can just download Python in the latest and greatest version. You should use Python 3, and then just go to python.org, and then you would find your distribution right here. As you can see, it works for Windows, Mac OS, and also, of course, the Linux distribution, and the current version right now is 3.10.2. So you just download that, and if you need any library, then you just install that library with something called virtual environment to begin with. And in the beginning, you don't need any libraries at all. You can just get started by creating a .py file, and then you can execute the code by running Python and then the name of the py file. So it's very, very simple to get started. There's no it's easy to get up and running. On the other hand, with Java, if you're a Java programmer, then you need some kind of Java development kit. So you of course you need the JDK installed. And if you are Linux or Mac user, or if you use something named WSL for Windows subsystem for Linux, then I will recommend you to use SDK man. Then you can just write SDK, install Java, and then you will have the latest and greatest, the long-term supported Java installed on your WSL. So use SDK man if you want to play around with Java and if you want to do the same stuff that I'm doing in this video right here. Then I think of course you have to choose is your integrated development environment, your text editor, if you will, your program editor. Which editor do you want to use to begin with? And there are two really, really good choices. And one is Visual Studio Code, VS Code, and then you need to install the Python plugin after downloading that. It's free, so it's just download it and try it. It's quite good. The good thing about Visual Studio Code, and the best thing about that, is that it almost never blocks your computer. It does not freeze up. While if you're using Pycharm, which I am right now, and which I really like because you get a lot of help, and you will get syntax highlighting in both IDEs, but you will get a little bit more help with Pycharm. But it can also lock up your system sometimes because it wants to index all the files that it sees inside your project. While VS Code is it's a bit more lightweight. So it's more lightweight. So it depends on which flavor that you like. So you could actually, if I were you and if I were new to programming, then I would actually download both VS Code and also Pycharm, and then I would use Pycharm for large Python programs. And then if I just want to change one file or if I want to change something else that is not Python, then I would use VS Code. I have both installed on my system, and I use them as I just said right there. If I want to change one file, maybe it could be a YAML file for some reason, then I just write VS Code and then the name of the file. But if I want to do programming, then I use Pycharm. The same thing with with Java. My preferred Java IDE, integrated development environment, is IntelliJ IDEA, which is right here, and that also comes in a free version. There's both a free version and paid version, a community version and a paid version for both Pycharm and IntelliJ. You can just use the community edition for both of those. The difference is that the paid version has more support for HTML and style sheets if it's Pycharm, and when you're dealing with IntelliJ, then you'll get more support for something called Spring Boot, which is a framework that helps you get up and running, and helps you with a lot of libraries for Java. So to get started and to get started without any cost, then download the community edition for Pycharm and IntelliJ, and also download VS Code. That is my recommendation. I'm not going to show you this in details. We might make another video about how to get started with Anaconda. It's a big topic, but that is actually how you can actually handle your dependencies. If you come from a Java world and you're used to Maven or Gradle to handle all of your dependencies, all of the libraries that you need to use from out there in the world, then Anaconda is the same as the dependency manager Maven and Gradle. It's kind of the same. You can set up an environment so you don't clutter up your default environment. But to begin with, please just clutter up your default environment, and you can also use virtual-int to get started with dependencies. But for this video, we will try not to use any dependencies. So we will try to keep it simple with this video right here. A huge reason for choosing Python is also that it is awesome for machine learning. There are some really good machine learning libraries out there, like TensorFlow, which was started by Google, and now it is open source. There's a huge community behind it. So TensorFlow is awesome, and when you have run one of their tutorials, then you feel like a magician, because you can actually then classify images very easily, and you can do this with Python. So and all of the machine learning libraries, they are mostly written for in Python, but you can see here they are actually also for JavaScript and also for mobile and IoT. But the main is actually the main programming language if you want to do machine learning, that is actually it is Python. If you are a Java developer, and if you're new to Java, then I would definitely recommend that you don't start with an empty Java project from scratch. I would start with the Spring Boot project through the Spring Initializer, because then you can get up and running much faster, and you will get less likely to be frustrated because there's something you need. Maybe you don't know how to write a unit test, or maybe you have heard someone using maybe you want to start a web server. Then you can easily do that with Spring Boot. So use the Spring Initializer if you are new to Java and you want to start up a project very easy. Then, when you are a little bit more trained with Python, then one of your questions will very quick be, how do I create a web project? And Django is a good answer right there. Django and Python, it is so easy, and it is so fast to actually create a Django web application that it'll make you feel happy when you get started with Django, because there's just so much you get out of the box, and which is just there that you don't need to think about, like an administration interface. And there's a lot of other stuff in that. There's also a framework that I'll just show you named Flask Python right there. That is also very good. It's a bit more lightweight, so there are some more things that you have to think about in the Flask framework. I would not choose Flask. If I were you, I would choose the Django framework. Then you can get up and running and get something cool made right away. Okay, so but that's a bit more advanced. Now let us get back to basics with Python, because Python you don't have to compile your Python files, because it is an interpreted language, as it's called. That means that we have an interpreter that actually takes the Python file and then just starts reading it from top to bottom, just like a human would, and it actually executes these lines one by one. While Java, on the other hand, as soon as you save a file in IntelliJ, then it will actually convert that to a .class file, which is bytecode, and which is something that the Java runtime environment, the Java engine, can then run afterwards. So there are more steps when you are dealing with Java. The newer versions of Python can also be compiled, so they can run a bit faster. In the old days, the Java developers were laughing a bit about at the Python developers, because Java runs much faster because it is compiled to the JVM, to the Java virtual machine, but that is not the case any longer. Now Python is just as fast if you choose to compile it. But in the beginning, you don't want to compile Python. Usually you create some really cool scripts which is fast to run with Python, and which would have taken you much longer in Java, and that is why you are happy to use Python, of course. First of all, I've already downloaded and installed Pycharm, and it looks like this. It actually looks a lot like IntelliJ, and of course you can customize the look and feel, and you can also have a dark background if you want to. You can have the dark version or the light version. The difference between these two IDEs is from the same company, JetBrains. So the difference between these IDEs is that they are customized for each language. So Pycharm is customized and prepared for Python, while IntelliJ is prepared for Java. But now we have talked a lot. We want to create a program, right? We want to code something. That's why we want to be programmers, right? So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to the root of my folder right here. I'm going to right click, and I'm going to create a new Python file right here. And I'm going to write Mike's Python file, Python program, like this. And then we can actually get started. And then we can print something out like, hello, we are up and running. Save, and then I can right click, and then I can actually press the run, and then this file right here. You can also, if you're using a terminal, and if you're using another IDE, or if you're just using a text editor, which I would not recommend in the beginning, you need that help. You need the code completion that these IDEs can actually help you. Then you would just write Python and then the name of the file, and then this would give the same result as now. Hello, we're up and running. This is so easy. It cannot be easier than that, right? We just wrote one line. Hello, we're up and running, and that's exactly what is happening, right? So this gives us a very fast success, and this is why, especially for new programmers, then Python is definitely the choice, and then they can try something more complex with Java. People that start out with Java, they have a bit of trouble doing that usually, because first of all they need to understand that, as I told you, that these .java files, they will be compiled into .class files, and then there is a Java runtime environment. There's a virtual machine that will actually run this file. So there's a lot of things we need to understand. We need to create a project. We need to have this structure that we have right here. Usually, if we're using Gradle, we also have to think about, do we want to use Gradle, which I'm using right here. You can see I have a build.gradle file right here. And what are all these things in this build.gradle file that we have right here? What is a repository? So there's a lot of weird stuff. What is a dependency? What are all these things in this Gradle file here? And it is actually written in a language called Groovy. Okay, so we also need to know a little bit about Groovy also. So when you start on Java, it is uphill, and it's when you know these things, of course, it also gives you some benefits. But that is why Python is so popular, and that is why I definitely recommend that people start out with Python, so they get this sensation of what programming is and how easy it actually is. But let us say that now we know that Gradle is just a dependency management tool. We have set up our project correctly because we went to IntelliJ, we chose new projects like this, and then we chose the Spring Initializer right here. So we need to know what is the Spring Initializer. It's a framework that will help us up getting started very fast. And then you can choose between Maven and Gradle. Which one is better? It depends on who you ask. I just prefer Gradle because it's shorter syntax. If you like XML, then you would choose Maven, for instance. And then you have to choose an SDK. You have to choose, there's a lot of things right here. We have to choose a name also, of course, for our project. We will give some kind of name. And then we need to choose of all of these modules here, which module do we want. Of course, we could just leave out the modules to begin with. But if you are new to Java, I would definitely recommend that you look into Lombok and Spring Web as the first things. Then we press finish, and then we will end up with a project like this. And I have just created my first file, my first program right here. And inside that program, let us just create a new one right here. I'll name this Mike's second program. Mike's second program right here. And I need to choose: is it a class? Is it an interface? Is it an enumeration? Is it annotation? I just want to create a simple script program, just like I did with Python, right? I just want to print out "Hello World" and maybe I want to take some input from a user, something like that. But what should I choose here? Then I will look up in my manual and then find out, of course, the Java book. I have to read some chapters and find out that I need to choose class to begin with, and that I have to, all programs actually start from a class. And I would also read in that same Java program, maybe I'll have to take a course, but it actually says that all code and all programs actually start inside the public static void main method, and that this is called the method that we have right here. So we have a class right here that we have to understand that what is that class, and we have to understand that as a method before we can actually get started writing any code at all. Then we need to know that if you want to print something out, then we need to know that in Java there's something named there's something called there are packages, and the print line is actually the system that this is actually another class that we have right here, so which is in the Java lang package, which is part of the default language. Then we need to know that the print line is actually hidden under out inside the out right here. Here we out, and then under, and here we have the method named print line that we can actually use. So all of these things we have to understand and know before we can actually print out. This is Mike's. I'll write second program because I just made the other one also. The reason why I made the other one was just to prepare some code, so you can show some more stuff. So okay, now IntelliJ is so nice actually that it gives me this little green play button right here, so I can just press play. I can also right click and then I can press play right here. What will happen is every time this view right here loses focus, then it will save it automatically. IntelliJ will save it automatically. It will also compile it to a .class file, which will be located up in one of the red folders, depending on how you have set up your project. You can actually see here if I go down to the build folder. The build folder, that is where we are when we want to build our program. Then we get the class files right here, and then we also have a we have a .gradle file that does some stuff right there, and then we also have IntelliJ also has its own folder, which is right here. But that means that if I am building this project right here, then I'll get my class file in that folder right there. So let me just build it. I don't have to build it manually. I will say I just want to show you that we actually get a class file inside this build folder right here. So here's Mike's second program, which is right here, and I can actually open up this class file right here, which is bytecode, and then it actually asks you, do you want to decompile this class file if I want to see it? Decided I would not like to. Okay, now it actually decompiled it. So I would just like to see it the bytecode, but it's okay. So I want to run this program right now, enough talk. So I'll press the play button right there, and what happens? It will be compiled, and then it will actually be run with the Java, with the Java command and the name of this class right here, and then it will actually run the main right there. So when you're dealing with Java, you have a Java C program that compiles the code, and then you have a Java tool that actually runs the compiled .class file. So it only runs .class files. But it actually happened. Here we have the output. This is Mike's second program. That is quite cool, right? So it is very difficult to get started with Java, and it's very easy to get started with Python, as we have right here. Another thing that you probably saw, with Java, we have all of these curly brackets all the time. You can see we have these curly brackets right here. Now let's try to make a loop. First, we will declare a list. We'll declare an array. So I'll declare an array, which could be first we need to think about the type string. That is the type. Then I can say that it should be an array. That I'll use squared brackets like this. This is just to declare the type, and then I'll say Mike's array like this, and then I'll say equal to, and then I'll say new string. So the new, here I say that I want to instantiate a new instance of the type string, an array string. That is what I say right here. So we need this new keyword all the time. We do not need that with Python, but we need it with Java. Then I can use curly brackets to actually give it some values to begin with. That could be tomatoes, and maybe potatoes like this, and then maybe also some cucumbers like this. So this is kind of a shopping list. It is a shopping list that I'm making right here. And look, I have to end each line with a semicolon with Java. I don't have to do that with Python either. I'll create the exact same program with Python in just a minute. So now I want to loop through my array. That has been done that's been changed a lot through the years. In old days, you could only loop through by using an index, an integer that actually was counted up one by one. But now you can actually loop through the items, which is also the Pythonic way to go through a list. That is to loop through items. We don't care about indexes, so we will just say. So again, we need to say which type it is that we actually get from this array right here. But I'll just say string, then I'll say shopping item like this, and you can see this camel case. That's because it's Java, and then I'll make a colon. So this is a new way of actually looping through an array with Java, and then I'll say Mike's array like this. And then we need the curly brackets again, the curly braces again, and then we can print. Print this out. If you write out in IntelliJ, then it will automatically write system.out.println. Then we can write remember to buy, and then we say shopping item like this. And I press Control Space every time I wanted to complete the code for me. So we can press run right here, and we can see actually what happens. Of course, some people they like these curly brackets. I really don't like them, especially if I've been coding Python for some time. Then I think it's really annoying. But that's Java curly brackets all the time. Curly brackets around to show that we start a method and we end a method. And a method in Python is called a function. So here we can call them methods. If a method is something that we can call, like this main right here, and then we have the class up here, which is camel case and starts with a capital letter, and we have the methods right here that always starts with the lower case. So now we actually ran a program right here. Remember to buy tomatoes, potatoes, and cucumber. So that was the Java way. Now let us look at the Python way. And of course, you can already hear that this is the way that I prefer, of course. So here we have, I'll create my list. I'll just say Mike's list equal to, and then I'll say, maybe we can buy something else right here. Bananas, maybe some more fruits, oranges, and grapes. So like this. And look how much simpler it looks like. We do not need to say that this is a variable. We just mention the variable right here, and then that's actually how we declare a variable, and then we also set it to a list of to a list of strings right here. Of course, I could also put integers in them or objects in them if I want to do that instead. Now just put in strings. Another thing with Python, it does not care if you use single or double quotes. So again, you can just choose which one you prefer. Now I want to loop through them. I'll write for, and it will say shopping item. Look, I am using snake case because it is Python, and I'll also just do it right here. There's a standard for how you should name. There's a standard for how you should actually name all of these. For your variables and also your for your variables and your functions, and also your classes. And there's a standard for that. I'll show that in just a minute. Let me just finish the program right here. So my list right here. So this for the shopping item in, and then I write colon. And look, now there's an indentation. So instead of curly brackets, we just used an indentation. That can also be a problem sometimes. If you get some kind of output from, or if you copy something from the internet, then these indentations can give problems. Yeah, if you have ever tried to configure something with a YAML file, then you definitely know that indentations can give you problems, especially in if you take something from a log file, from some kind of Docker image, for instance, that are running in a container that is running, then you can get in trouble if you just copy paste it into your program. Let us now run. Remember to buy colon, and now I'm going to use the format. Of course, I could also string Java of course can also format strings. I'll just write format like this, and I'll say shopping item like this. So this means that I'm actually templating the string right here. You'll see I'm using these curly brackets right here for templating inside my string. And of course, you can use as many curly brackets as you want. Then you would just add more variables to this list right here with a comma. But now I want to run this program. I right click and then I press run. I could also press Control Shift F10, which are the shortcut keys to run this program right here. So remember to buy bananas, oranges, and grapes. It just works. It's cool. It's awesome. Yes. So that is a list, and that is how to loop through the data right there. I talked about that standard, so let me just mention it so don't forget that we have something named the PEP8 standard, and I will try to show you what it is. PEP8 standard Python. I would recommend that you actually read this standard, and it is very boring to read, of course, all of this. But when you have read all of this, then you would know that. Then you would actually know whether you should use trailing commas or not inside your inside of your lists, etc. There's a lot of you can also see if you want to create a function, then you write def and then you write something like this. And you could also say that you want to give the return type with an arrow like that. So there's a lot. This is how you should actually code, and it's not that much actually. But this is called the PEP8 standard. And the cool thing is when you know this PEP8 standard, and then you can actually correct your colleagues, and then you can say, hey, according to the PEP8 standard, then you should not name your classes with a lowercase character. It needs to be a uppercase character, and you need to use camel case for your classes, but snake case for your functions. And of course, it's always so satisfying to correct other people. So I would definitely recommend you to read the PEP8 Python page, and you get the PEP8 Python page by just searching for instance Google. You just search for PEP8 and then Python. Now let us try to create a function now. So now we want to create a function. We say def. That is how we define a function. Then we can say by something or by item like this, and then we can add the item right here, and then we can write our program, and then we can write you have bought, and then and then we can say format again, and then we can say the item right here, and of course I need the curly brackets as for templating inside the string right here. And as you can see right here, we can also make it return something. Return 10 if you want to have it to return a number. Then we can actually give the return type like this, just to help people out. Even though you don't have to give the return type, then you should still do it. And I think we can find a good example right here. So here we have the we have the round brackets there, and then we have the the return type and int like this. So this is the integer that we want to return right now. So the arrow means that is the return type, and we don't have to give it if you don't want to. That is a good thing about Python. If you're lazy, you just write, and also you can see right now there's no type. The item right here, we should actually say that it's a type string just to help other developers. And I would also say that you should also always say which type you are intending to return to. Which type you're going to return, because it is a little bit easier for other developers to say, okay, here. We can go through the shopping list, and then we can actually buy an item. And of course we need to declare this function first before we can actually use it. So we'll go here and we'll say buy item like this, and then we will say this shopping item like this, and then we will say my int equals to this, and we can also print out the value like this. And again, formatted with my ints like this, and now we're printing out this. So this is how we actually create a function. I'll right click, run this program right here again, and you can see here we get you have bought bananas, the value is, you have bought oranges, the value is, etc, etc, etc. So this is how you would actually handle functions in Python. Now let us go back to Java and see how that is done in Java. First of all, if you are from a static context, you need to understand what a static context is, and that is if you are if you're not inside an instance of a class, if you're not inside an object, then you are in something called a static context. Then the method that you want to call also need to be static. So I will create a static void, that is the return type, and you can see here first, before we actually mention the name, then we actually need to give a lot of things right here. Public, that is the scope, that means that it can be called from other classes, and static means that it's from a static scope, that means that you do not have to have an instance of this class right here to call this method right here. Void, that means it returns nothing. But let it return an int instead, just like before. And then we'll say buy something. And when you and then we can have a string right here, and we are forced to give the type right here, and then we just say thing right here, and then we can write system.println, and we say buy this, and then thing, and then we can return 20 just to return something else. Yes, so that should actually be it. And now we will call this by something. Then we'll say shopping item like this. And you can see right now I got an error right here, or warning. That is because when I have a static method, let us just see what actually happened right here. Okay, it's because I'm returning the. There are some good warnings. It's always good when you can see there's a yellow mark. Then there's something else. This actually means that because we are returning a static all the time, then it wants it to be a void instead. And that is also because we are not using the value right here down here. So I can say the value equals to by something right here. So now the warning is gone. Yes. Now it's happy. And I'll just comment out this line right here. If you want to comment out a line in IntelliJ, you press Control and then the / on the keypad. Then you outline, then you comment out the whole line. Of course, you can also mark multiple lines. You can do the same. You can comment them in again by also pressing Control and then the / on the keypad, like this. Now we have created this program right here. We want to print out the value. The value is, and then plus the value. And it will automatically be converted into a string. This right here, we do not need to convert it into a string. So with Python, we actually had to when you're concatenating, you have to convert the types. Unless you use the format as I did before, I used the format, so then that is happening in the format function. But now we're here in Java, we're here in this method right here, and we have another method right there. Now let us run this program right here. Let us see what actually happens. We're running, and here we got all of the output. This is my second program. Buy this tomatoes. Value is 20. Buy this potatoes, etc., etc., etc. Of course, so when we start using the functions and we start using the classes, then of course there are some things that where they resemble each other. I would say that the biggest hurdle between Java and Python is when you get started, that you have to understand all of this nonsense right here before you can actually say that okay. Why does it need to be named main? What if I want to name this Mike's cool program instead? Of course, then I cannot do that. I have to have a main that then calls something else right here. Now let us look at the object-oriented stuff, because that is always what gives people a headache, and it is actually not as difficult as we should think. The object-oriented stuff is actually when you want to create a class, you want to have a kind of a template for an object, and then you can have this object do some things. So I'm going to create a new directory right here. This is also what you call a package. So in Python, you just create a new directory, and this could be space stuff right here. So now I have one package named space stuff. I want to, if it should be a package, then that can be loaded as a module. Then I need to add a file, which is __. Needs to be init and then __.py again, like this. So this means now it also, you can see the icon, it got a small dot right here. So now Pycharm knows that this is a package, and this init code, you can add code inside this init.py file if you want to. It will only be run once when one of the classes that we have inside this package right here is loaded and used somewhere in the program. Then the code that we have right here inside this file will actually be run. Most of the times these files will actually be blank and empty. There will not be any code in it, because usually it's very difficult to debug when you have code inside your init.py file. It's at least it takes a bit longer than you would usually expect if you have your code nicely arranged inside classes and functions. Of course, this is a matter of opinion, but that is my opinion. So I'll create a new file right here. I'll say this could be my spaceship. Spaceship. The files should also be named in lowercase according to the pip 8 standard. So I'll name the spaceship, and then I have my class right here, spaceship, and this needs to be camel case right here. And here I can have my variables. My spaceship, it can have a name like this, and it could be a string. And then we can actually create a constructor. The constructor is actually something that you would use to initialize. An instance of itself, and that would usually be something like this. That means that you would give a name. You need to give up a name for the spaceship, and then you will set the name of the spaceship to this argument right here. So this is a spaceship. So and then okay. I'll give it a function right here, which could be fly away like this, and you can see it always takes self. That's because then it can actually use that is if you want to have then you have a reference to this object that you are dealing with right here, and then that means that I can actually write print something right here, print line, print right here, and then we have and then we have we have print, and then we will format the string right here. So we'll say flying away with the spaceship named, and then we use this curly brackets right here, and we will say format, and then we will format with name like this. Oh, we need to have self in front right here. Self, so that is how I refer to this member variable that we have right here. So this is a member variable. This is a function that we have, a member function. And this is our constructor. This is how we create an instance of this object right here. Another thing, in Python, we can actually have multiple classes in the same file. So I can actually create a captain if I want to. Captain, and the captain could have some experience level, that could be an integer, and we can also give it a default value of 0 if we want to. And then we could actually, again, we could create init right here, def init like this, and experience like this, and then we can say self.experience equal to exp like this, and then we can give this captain here a function. We could be brag about some achievements, and then and then of course this captain would brag about his or her experience level. My experience level is, and then the experience level that we have right there, experience like this. So now we actually created two classes inside one file, one Py file, and that is also something that you need to be aware of when you're coding Python. When you're dealing with Java, then you can only have usually you would have one file and then one class. You can have something called inner classes in Java, and then you can actually that way have multiple classes in one file. But usually you would not do that. You would have one file and then one class. If you are coding something called Kotlin, which is a lot of fun to code, then you could actually also create multiple classes inside one file. But what it will actually do behind the scenes, it will actually compile it to multiple class files, and then it would actually still have one class file per class. It's just extra bonus info. If you are bored with Java, then definitely look into Kotlin. It's you feel happy after coding some Kotlin. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of weird tricks in it. But in this video, we will keep it to a comparison between Java and Python. And Kotlin also runs inside the JVM, so it is a Java-based language. Okay, so now we have created a spaceship and a captain. We want to initialize these. So what will we do? We will outcomment this code right here. Control / and then we will try to use we will create a new spaceship. Mike's spaceship. Mike's ship equal to spaceship, and then it needs a name, and it could be Mike. And now there's an error because we need to import. We need to import the spaceship from space stuff. So we have to have space stuff dot spaceship dot like this. So this means that we actually taking this spaceship that we have right here inside this folder that we have right here, this package right here, inside this file that we have right here, and of course it is instead of doing that, then we can do some imports. Let me just find a good example of that, because we can import the types in the top right here. So yeah, we will use the from. There was a from keyword right there. So I'll just say from. Usually it should actually be possible to get the space. Maybe it's because I have two of these right here. From. Okay, it actually did it right there. So import spaceship like this. that was. So I like to have Pycharm do it itself. I just pressed Alt Enter, and then I actually and then we actually got this like this right here. So we have spaceship, like this, and yeah. So here we have this my ship, and then we can actually print out. First, we'll print out my ship, and this means that we will actually reuse the default string representation of the ship, and we will actually see how does that look. So I'll say run this program right here. From import spaceship. Okay, I wrote it myself instead. I think it was a little bit easier, like this. This was what I was after. Yeah, I just like to use Alt Enter to have Pycharm complete the code for me. But you write from, and then you mention the package, and then the file name, and then you can say which part do we want to import. As you can see right now, I did not import the captain, but I would actually also like to import the captain. So what will we do? I'll just write comma, and now I can import the captain also. Another thing, now we actually printed out the spaceship, and look how ugly it looks. This is the default way to this default string representation. So we will change this. I'll go to my spaceship. I held Control, and then I pressed with the mouse on the class name, and then we actually jumped into the spaceship right here. And here we'll go to the string right here. This is the string representation. That means that whatever we return right here is actually how we will see the spaceship right here. And it is a good idea to use the member variables. Spaceship with name. So this is the string representation that we're using right here. Dot format, and then we say self.string. Self.name, sorry, that was what I meant. And here we have the. So this is done very often. Whenever you create a new class, and if you want to, it's easy to debug, and if you want easy to print out, then please create this string representation of your class. And I'm not going to do that with the captain because we don't need that. It's enough with the spaceship for now. So I'll go out here, and then I'll say spaceship equals this, and then we'll print out the spaceship, but that's the same code. And I'll just press play. Let us see. Now look at the string representation that we got right there. Now it says spaceship with name and a mic, and that's it. So that is much better representation of the string, the spaceship. Of course, I can also write mic ship. There was a function on it. If I want to call the function fly away, then I can just call the function in the end like this. Flying away with spaceship named Mike. The cool thing about functions is that you can actually reuse them a lot of times. It gives reusable code, as you can see right here. Now I'm flying away a lot of times. So that's pretty awesome. Now let us do almost the same in Java and see how we do that, because there we also have packages. I'll just create a new package right here. I'll actually create it under here, new package, and then we create a new package. I'll say that this is space stuff again, space stuff. So here's my package. I'll create a new spaceship, new Java class. I'll choose the type class, and I'll say spaceship like this. And I'll create a member variable, private string, and then I'll say name. That is the name of the spaceship. Then I can press Alt Insert, and then I can actually have some code generated for me. You can also do that with Python. You can both IntelliJ and Pycharm are really, really good with generating code for you. Boilerplate code. You can also see getters and setters can also be created. But right now I want to create a constructor like this. So that means that now when I try to create an instance of my spaceship, then I give up the name of my spaceship, and then it will actually get that name set inside the member variable right there. Then we want to create the string representation to string. And again, right here, I can have it generated. I can just mention the member variable. Then I can press OK, and then IntelliJ is actually creating this nice string representation for me that uses the name that we have right up there. That's pretty cool. Now I want to create a new method. So here I will say public because I want other classes from other packages than the package that I'm in right now to actually be able to call this method right here. And I'll name fly away like this, fly away. And then we say public void because it does not return anything, and then we'll just say system.println flying away like this, and then we'll say plus name. So now we can also fly away with this spaceship right here. So now we will go to Mike's second program, which is right here. We can actually let us create a third program. New Java class, Mike's third program. Like this, and then we will write main, and then IntelliJ will help us with creating this public static void main with all these arguments right here. These arguments right here, I did not mention that. Those are if you want to give a command line, if you want to give command line arguments to your program, then they will be picked up right here, and then you can use them inside your Java program. So, and that is why it is an array of strings. So that means that you have to interpret them as string first, and if you would actually expect an integer as the second argument, you have to do those checks yourself, and you have to cast that variable into an integer yourself. But now we want to create new spaceship right here, and we will say this is Mike's spaceship again. And I press Alt Enter. That's a good trick. And then I can say introduce new variable. And now I've created a new variable. Of course, I can create multiple of them. Control D will duplicate your line in IntelliJ. Okay, just give it some names right here. Let's say John. So now we have 3 spaceships, and we can then spaceship, and then we can call fly away, spaceship 2 fly away, and spaceship 3 fly away like this. And let us run this program right here and see if it should give us the same output almost as the Python program, of course, except for that here we have 3 spaceships right here: fly away Mike, fly away Harriet, and then John. Let us duplicate this line here again, because the good thing about methods is that we can reuse code. That is usually the reason why we have these methods right here. So here we have the output: flying away Mike, then Harriet and John. I hope you liked this video. If you did, then please take the time to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, because we have a lot of cool stuff coming up. Bye.